Great.
All right, so why don't you start over, Greg?
Okay. I will call this meeting of the Board of Directors of ORCAA to order on June 10th. And we'll start with some introductions since we have a new member. I'm Greg Brotherton, Jefferson County Commissioner and Chair of the ORCAA Board of Directors. And I'll just kind of call on board members as I see them, and then we'll move to staff. Dave, you want to say hello?
Dave Tobin, Pacific County Commissioner.
Being with us, Carolyn.
Hi, I'm Carolyn Cox, representing Lacey City Council, filling in for Ryan CU today.
All right, thanks for being here, Carolyn. JR, you want to say hi? You can take a moment to kind of talk about it. I don't, you're, we haven't met, so I'd love to hear a little bit about you.
J.R. Streifel, representing Grace Harbor County as the District 3 Commissioner. Had a career in the fire service and other things, and served on school boards and stuff. And here I am, here to serve on this board now.
That's great. School board was my on-ramp to elected service as well. It's a great way to get your feet wet. All right, AJ, you're with Emily? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, you want to say hi?
Hi, I'm AJ May. I'm Commissioner Klaus's executive aide. And I'm just
Do you know
today.
Do you know if Emily is going to be here today?
I am messaging her right now, so I'll have an answer for you in 1 second.
Okay, great. And then I think the one member in the room is Paul. You want to say hello?
Sure. Paul Barrett. I'm representing the city of Olympia from the Olympia City Council.
A very city-focused meeting today. Jeff, you want to take us through the staff?
Sure. So my name is Jeff Johnston, Executive Director of ORCAA. Here in the room with me today, Mike Schultz, Compliance Manager, Odell Hadley, Senior Air Monitoring Specialist, Tiffany Flores, Record Specialist, and ORCAA's Public Records Officer, taking minutes this morning, and Debbie Moody, Operations Manager. Upstairs, isolating because he's not feeling well is Tyson Justice, ORCAA's Financial Services Manager. Dan Nelson, ORCAA's Communications Manager, is running Zoom from his office, and Chris Kraus, ORCAA's IT System Administrator, is sitting in as well. And with that, let me just turn it over to Jaron Wilburn, ORCAA's Legal Counsel.
You're muted, Jaron. And you have an angelic backlighting as well.
Appreciate it. Morning, everyone. Jaron Wilburn, counsel for ORCAA, filling in for Jeff Myers today.
Thanks for being here. Okay, with that, we'll get started with the approval of the agenda. Are there any corrections or additions, omissions? Welcome a motion to approve the agenda. Seeing none?
That we approve the June 10th agenda.
Second.
Moved by Dave, seconded by Carolyn. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, we have an agenda. Next up is the chair reports. Not a lot to report, just a reminder that July, we're going to have a meeting. There's no finance committee meetings until October. And then August, we will have a little summer break and have no ORCAA meeting. I presume ORCAA is still going to be doing good work in that month, but no board meeting. And then, then we're back until November or December is the other meeting that we'll skip. So we'll have, again, 10 meetings this year, no meeting in August. And I see Mike French has joined us. You want to say hello, Mike?
Hello, Mike French, Clallam County Commissioner. Sorry for being late. I was writing an email and I got really into it, apparently.
I know how that goes. Yeah, you're all ready. I'm going to do one more thing, and then, I'm 5 minutes late. No problem. Okay. Well, with that, we will move on to public comment. I don't think we received any written public comment. Dan, do we have any folks that are raising their hands in the audience?
We have no public online and haven't heard from anybody in the building.
All right. Well, no news is good news. So we'll move on to the consent agenda. We have the minutes from May 13th, as well as the expenditures and disbursements. Any questions or concerns? Oh, and I see from AJ that Commissioner Klaus is having trouble with the link. AJ, you might tell her, I know Debbie sent out a new link today, and that's also the link that's in the most recent calendar. So has a new one that's been sent out. So Maybe I usually have
She's
about, yeah.
saying that that link isn't working for her either, so I'm just working with her real quick, but we'll see if she's able to join today.
Okay. Well, thank you for the update. Okay. Questions or thoughts on the consent agenda?
Move to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second.
Moved by Mike, seconded by Dave. All in favor of approving the consent agenda as presented, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions? All right, that is unanimous. Great. Well, we'll move on without further ado to the big meeting of the big item today, which is our public hearing on the 2027 budget, fiscal year budget. Excuse me. And I think that Tyson, my partner in feeling not quite 100% today, is going to give a brief presentation on it, but I will open the hearing and then we'll take testimony from the public. I'll just reiterate, everyone's had a chance. We had this same presentation. I just asked that Tyson give it really quickly today at the last board meeting. And Jeff reported no one has given any notes or indications that there's anything awry. So feeling optimistic about it, but would love for the record for Tyson to just kind of go through the high points of the budget with the presentation he made last month.
So before turning it over to Tyson, I just wanted to say a couple things, but then hand it over. Just wanted to acknowledge that the board vote today is the culmination of a lot of work over the past 6 months. So really appreciate the amount of time and effort that staff has put into this, and many discussions with the finance committee and other board members over the past 6 months. I think the budget manages agency costs, ensures that we're using funds efficiently and effectively. It does include fee increases with the goal of having program fees cover the cost of those programs to the extent possible. That does manage a loss of state core funding to the sum of $175,000 this biennium. And the budget prioritizes important agency investments, investments in staff, ensuring that we can attract and retain highly qualified and motivated staff. And it includes investment in updating our regulations and what's called the state implementation plan. So some important housekeeping with our regulations. And so, we did, because of the fee increases, we did some extra outreach on the budget this year. So despite not having anybody here, any public commenting, we did do some extra outreach. And so we just asked Dan just to give a quick kind of overview of the extra outreach that we did with the budget this year.
Yeah, so when we opened the public comment period on May 8th, I believe, we did send out a little more than 250 postcards to gas dispensing facilities and the operators, and about 280 emails to asbestos contractors who had worked with us at some point in the past that were in our database. So that was unprecedented to send out over 500 personal notices to say, this is what's going on. Feel free to comment on these changes. Then, of course, we publicize through our website, our email newsletter, which goes out to about 16,000 people now, and then through our social media channels and through paid legal ads in newspapers.
Great. Okay, so with that, hand it off to Tyson just for a very quick kind of high-level overview of the proposed 2027 budget.
And just real quick before you start, Tyson, I'm sorry. I just want to acknowledge that Randy Netherland from Mason County has joined us as well. So we're getting to a full house. So
and
take it away,
Emily's
Tyson.
just coming in too.
Oh, great. Okay. Excellent.
All right. In an attempt not to try to repeat myself too much, I'm just going to talk really briefly about the high level points of our fiscal year 2027 budget. So FY27, we are forecasting $2,972,182 in total revenues and $3,540,274 in total expenditures. For FY27, this results in a projected operating deficit of $568,093. A major factor in this projected year-end deficit is our conservative approach in revenue assumptions regarding fee and penalty activity. Because fee activity is driven by economic forces and exact penalty revenue remains unknown, we may forecast these revenue sources lower than their actual receipts. This practice provides a check on over-encumbering yearly expenditures for us. A couple of key budget items we are requesting in FY27 are a 2.8% increase in salaries and wages for staff, $50,000 for replacement fleet vehicle, $15,000 for a project position, which will be updating the agency SIP, a $27,000 drawdown on the database reserve fund for continued work on our new agency database, and a $30,000 inflow from the general fund into the building reserve fund. Lastly, I do plan on returning any leftover FY26 database funds from the general fund back into the database reserve fund. Please take a look at the budget package that was provided to you with the documents that were sent out by Debbie for this meeting. That's all I have, Greg.
No, that's great, Tyson. Thank you for all your good work on this. And, again, no news is good news when it comes to responses to this proposed budget. So I know we have some folks that have not had a lot of chance and probably not a lot of time with the budget, but does anyone have any questions or comments before I open this up for public testimony? Yeah, go ahead, Carolyn.
Just one question. I pretty well understand what's in the budget, and this is a question for Jeff or Tyson. If some unexpected funds mysteriously appear, is there a plan for what we might restore funding to, should we have the opportunity to do that?
Well, I would say, any sort of, if we had extra penalty funds or other things come in, those go into the agency, into our contingency fund, and then we then make decisions about how we would want to spend that.
Right.
So we would have, and we'd have conversations with the finance committee and the board about that. And it would likely then mean that we would end the year without a deficit. So I don't know, does that answer your question?
Yeah, I just wondered if you had any top priorities for using extra funds if they should occur.
And I'll just add a little context here, Carolyn. This has been a topic of some conversation among the board and especially in the finance committee, really because we did have an unusually high fine several years ago that kind of was a bulwark for some of the deficit spending that we have often started to do and not had to do, right? We've in several years, including last year, we projected a deficit and ended up with a net, a net positive. So we've talked about making a separate fund for some of those unusual awards and haven't done it because, as Jeff laid out, there's still the process of what are we going to do with these unusual funds when we get them. But as Jeff said, it's just going to first mitigate the deficit spending that we are doing.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
Excellent question.
Any other questions or comments?
This is Paul,
Go ahead.
representing Olympia, Paul Barron. The governor's office sent out, the director of the Office of Financial Management sent out a memo this last week. I don't know how many people are aware of it. Warning, kind of a very stiff warning that for state government, they are projecting another really tough budget year in 2027. And so I think it's really incumbent upon us to acknowledge that it's very likely that, today we had a bad inflation report from the feds. We see prices increasing, and so I just think it's very important that we take a conservative approach to these numbers so that we're not put in a tough position into the new year. And my concern is just kind of the disintegrating economic forecast and what impact that has on our various revenue streams. More of a comment than a question, but I think it warrants some discussion.
Thanks, Bon. I'll just respond quickly, and I see Jeff has something to say too. And just acknowledging that our core grants have gone down already, and we've been compensating for that. And we know that the way that we're going to make up a budget deficit at ORCAA is probably to increase assessments, which impacts all of the municipalities that make up this board. So there's a real compounding impact of some of these budget challenges. So it's I agree with you that it's something we need to be very cognizant of. I think this budget is cognizant of it, but I'll turn it over to Jeff for some staff response to your comment.
Well, thanks, Paul. That's certainly something very much that we're looking at. I'll talk a little bit later during my updates about an effort to get more active with the legislature to possibly restore some state funding at some point going forward. But as you say, as the 2027 legislative session is going to be very tough budgetarily. And so trying to restore the funding that ecology cut this biennium is going to be really tough. And then, of course, there's the uncertainty with our federal core grants as well. Those have remained steady, but that's a big unknown. So I think, we just need to budget very conservatively and be ready. And so, I think we're paying attention to these things. But I appreciate you raising that issue.
Great. Thank you very much, Paul. Anything else folks would like to chime in on before we open for testimony? To nobody. All right, Randy keeps unmuting and I feel like you've got something to say, Randy, but I won't push you.
I'm having a problem with my camera. You know how it is. They gave me a new computer, a new upgrade, and all this other stuff. And every time they make it better, they make it worse. It's just the life goes. On some of this stuff, I fight back and forth when it comes to the budget and always have. But when we're all said and done through our finance committee, we battle these things out and we look at them seriously. And I win some and I lose some, but I stand behind what we decided as a committee. I will say one comment when it comes to the funds and why I've always wanted them separated when we're getting monies that are coming in through fines and the stuff is simply so that we will have to be forced to keep track of everything we're doing while we're doing it and not be just budgeting out those expenditures into the future because we have that money coming in and then we start forcing ourselves to have that money coming in because we're relying on it. If we separate it out, eventually we're smart enough to do that. We'll always know exactly how much we're truly spending and how much we're coming up short in some of those areas. Then we can still decide to take it out of that, but it's a lot more open and transparent for ourselves. I'm not talking about because we're not hiding nothing from the public. Open and transparent for ourselves to know that we're doing the right thing when we're doing our decisions. But I stand behind our budget and what's been put together. It is the best that we could negotiate between all of us. And I believe everybody did a great job on getting us here.
Thank you, Randy. Well said. Any other thoughts before I open up for questions? Yes, Emily.
Thank you. I'm sorry I'm late. I was also having some technical difficulties and I'm a little under the weather this week, so that's why my camera's off for the benefit of everybody. And I just wanted to say that I really enjoyed the process of being the chair of the finance committee this year. It was super fascinating to learn all the ins and outs of how ORCAA manages the budget and the decisions we make on the finance committee. And I feel 100% confident that alongside staff, the the finance committee and the board have had ample time to kind of go over the details and ask questions. And Jeff's done a great job reaching out to make sure people remember every month that we do have the chance to look at documents and ask questions if we need to. And overall, the process has just been like, honestly, the smoothest budget process of any of the boards and committees I've sat on. So thank you to staff, thank you to Jeff and everybody on the finance committee for this process. And I look forward to getting this across the finish line.
Great. Thank you, Emily. Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, I guess I just kind of want to address this summary that we just received. And what I heard there was we'll have $568,000 more in expenditures than we are anticipating in revenue. I heard that correctly, didn't I?
You're correct.
Yeah.
Yep.
So, is it anticipated that that we are going to have to A, raise rates, or B, dip into reserves for this deficit? I just kind of, we're spending more than we're taking in. I just want to know what the plan is.
So if we do, so as we've talked about over the past few months, I mean, so we often where we typically project a deficit. It ranges from more than 500,000 to less. Last year was the fiscal year 2025 was the first year that we had actually ended the year with a deficit. Fiscal year 2026 isn't over quite yet, but we're likely to have a small deficit fiscal year 2026 as well because of large building expenses and some other things. But so yes, the money, we do have a significant amount of contingency funds set aside. So we will just borrow against our contingency, or we'll take money from our contingency fund to pay for any operating deficit.
And how large is that contingency fund at this time?
So that's shown on slides. So right now, so the proposed ending fund balance in fiscal year. So actually, Dan, could you bring up the slides? Bring up the budget package, and it's going to be slide 2, the general fund overview page.
And it's a total coincidence that Tyson looks like he's in the witness protection program. This has all been very transparent.
Yes. All right. So that is so you see 2 columns there: fiscal year 2026, the adopted budget, ending fund balance. And again, we still haven't finished fiscal year 2026 yet, but a little less than $3.5 million in our ending fund balance. And then so projecting if we spend everything that if the budget plays out exactly as projected, we would end up fiscal year 2027 with slightly less than $3 million in our contingency, in our end fund balance. And that's fund balances with Thurston County.
And
I don't know.
One important part of that, Paul, is the FY26 adopted column is based on the projected budget. So it's not actuals.
Yes.
So we projected a net operating loss of $744,000 in FY26. Actuals will come in a lot lower than that. So
yeah,
please keep that in mind.
I mean, so we just finished actually earlier this morning. Tyson sent the cash flow numbers for the end of May, and we're still positive. So we're likely, so June is going to come out a little bit negative, but we're certainly not going to be anywhere close to that $700,000.
I do want to just reinforce what Randy said, that has sort of created a false impression I don't know. Positive impression. A couple years that we did not end up with the deficit was because we had an unusually high fee that kind of buffered and buffered the budget process. So that's just it's an issue that we've talked about. We've not made a change yet, but sometimes it does get obscured a little bit when we're deficit spending with an unusually high fine. So I just want to say it's not quite as perfect as that, but it's true that we've only actually had to go in at deficit spend in fiscal year 26 for the first time that I've been at ORCAA for a variety of reasons, but mostly due to conservative fiscal planning.
Great, that's very helpful. I just wanted to being a relative newcomer to this, I just wanted to understand that.
That's why we're here. Thank you, Paul. Any other questions or comments? And you can probably stop sharing now, Dan. Okay. Well, if there are no more thoughts from the board, I will officially open this hearing for testimony. Oh, great. Joan from Tumwater has joined us as well. I think we've got a full complement now. Before I open for testimony, Joan, I know you're still coming on, but did you have any questions or comments on the budget before I open for public testimony?
I do not. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks for being here. Okay, with that, I will open this hearing for public testimony. We value the input of the public, and we would love to hear you because it is a hearing. You'd have to identify yourself and where you live. And I guess there's no one from the public in the room, but I'll ask anyone in the room or anyone online if you'd like to make testimony for this budget hearing. Now is the time. So you can raise your physical hand, you can hit the raise hand button, or *9 if you happen to be on the phone. Make one more call for testimony. Would anyone like to give testimony on this budget for fiscal year 27? Okay. Seeing no testimony, I will close this hearing and I guess begin deliberations. We've had some conversations already, but are there any other issues that people want to raise? Or I would, when people are ready to, welcome a motion to approve the ORCAA fiscal year 2027 consolidated operating budget as presented.
I think it is worth noting that we have received no written comment either.
Thank you, Dan.
So moved.
I'll second.
Okay. Moved by Emily, seconded by Dave to approve the 2027 fiscal year consolidated operating budget for ORCAA as presented. Any further conversation?
I'll just
Yes.
say really quickly, thank you to ORCAA staff for kind of bearing with us as we really I think we pushed them pretty hard on some of the assumptions that went into the creation of this budget, at least at the finance committee level. And they were very responsive. They were very open to, let's take the time we need. Let's provide the information we need so that everybody can feel good about the budget that we're considering. And so I really appreciated that.
Great. Thank you, Mike. Okay. Anyone else? Seeing no further comment or question. Oh, go ahead, JR.
Oh, no, I was just gonna say, in your budgeting process that being conservative in what you're gonna spend and which actually will come out is planning for the worst, but hoping for the best, is what I see. I'm brand new, right? So just looking at it, and I appreciate that.
Great, thank you. And fresh eyes are really important in this process. So we appreciate you taking the time to dig into it. Okay, any final conversation? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All in favor of the motion on the floor approving the 2027 fiscal year budget, indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstentions?
Carolyn Cox is there.
Yes, she is. All right. That is unanimous. We have a budget. Tyson, Jeff, great work. Thank you for, as Mike said, your diligence in response to a lot of hard questions. And I think we're all feeling really good about this budget. So good news there.
Well, thank you, everybody.
Okay, with that, we'll pass it over to Jeff for the executive director's report.
Okay, great. Well, just a couple things. First, I wanted to mention some exciting news. I want to congratulate Lauren Wybrew on earning her Professional Engineer designation. Her license was issued last week. So at ORCAA, professional engineers now outnumber PhDs. So I guess Odell and I need to look out. But in addition to Lauren, we have Jennifer DeMay and Aaron Manley are other professional engineers. So that was exciting. The other thing I wanted to mention, as we talked a little bit about earlier, again, with the significant cut that ORCAA's taken to state funding this biennium, I think it's really important that ORCAA and the other 6 Washington local air agencies get more involved with the legislature to advocate for the important work that we do. So I'm working with the directors of the other locals to put together, I have put together a solicitation to hire legislative consultants to work with us in the coming months and during the 2027 legislative session. And just to help raise awareness and about the work that we do. The vast majority of it is in fact required by the Washington Clean Air Act. And so, but again, as we've been talking about it, as Paul referenced the letter from OFM to state agencies about the needed belt tightening in the coming legislative session. You know, I don't know whether we'll be successful with advocating for more funding, but I think it's important that we look at this as a long-term discussion and kind of long-term raising the level of awareness about the work that we do, because, you know, frankly, you know, so agencies like ORCAA have been around since 1967, 68, but still a lot of residents of Washington don't know about local clean air agencies and the work that we do. And so I think we just need to be raising that level of awareness with the general public as well as legislators. And so ORCAA has agreed to manage the contract with the legislative consultant, and we'll have interlocal agreements with the other Washington locals to contribute. I'm soliciting proposals through the end of June and hoping to sign a contract later this summer, hopefully around the 1st of August. So after this meeting, I'll send an email out to you that has the solicitation attached. And I would love it if you could forward it to any any lobbyists or other folks that you work with that you think might be interested in working with ORCAA, and would certainly welcome any questions or suggestions that you have. So feel free to, again, once you get this email from me, pass it on or reach out to me with questions or suggestions that you have. But again, the deadline of hoping to get a variety of proposals in by the end of June. So that's just wanted to mention that. And then the other thing I'll mention is that as Greg was talking about looking forward to some future board agenda items, just remember that at the bottom of each agenda, there's a link to the next agenda, to the next meeting. And if you click on that link, you'll pull up the board agenda planner, which has the list of all of our upcoming meetings and the tentative topics on those meetings. And I see, Carolyn, that you have your hand up.
Yeah, just a suggestion on the potential lobbyists that you may want to have a conversation with Matt Kennelly at the Lot Clean Water Alliance.
Okay.
I serve on that board, and we made the decision last year to hire a consultant to represent us in the ledge. And we've had a duo. I'm not sure they're exactly what you all would want, but I think Matt could be helpful in talking about that process. So, and
Great.
you know, talking about our first year experience as a smaller agency doing this.
Great. Actually, I have talked with Matt a fair amount, and in terms of putting together the solicitation, I pulled from the lot RFP for some of that language. So that was very helpful in working with Matt. So, yeah.
You are so far ahead of me, Jeff. Thank you.
Okay, so I think that's it from me. So with that, I think I'll hand it off to Mike for compliance manager update.
Thank you, Jeff. Hello, everybody. The compliance packet went out. I'll be happy when I'm done going over a couple quick things to answer any questions on those. Some more highlights of the compliance team. Rob Weiland, the inspector supervisor, he actually finished his master's, got his master's degree in environmental management in May. So kudos to him for that. Continuing his education and getting some good knowledge. Rose Espinoza Aguilar, she's our most recent inspector. One, she has finished and completed her first year at ORCAA, so I wanted to note that. She's doing great. Mid to late May was her year, so got another one here a year and hopefully keep her a lot longer. She's doing wonderful. Warehouser, I've mentioned several of the last meetings we're installing a CDK, a continuous dry kiln. It's the first one in our 6 counties.
And where is Warehouser?
Oh, Warehouser and Raymond, the lumber mill. They're a Title V. And this basically will allow them to be more efficient running their kilns. The lumber continuously through a kiln instead of back in and out like traditional kiln work. And they're up and going finally after lots of work and permitting and the engineers are still working on a few issues with them. But that operation is up and running as of 2 weeks ago. And we'll be watching that and seeing if more mills go that way. But that's a nice new thing and again, more efficient way for them to run. Mentioning Lot, there was a tour May 19th of Lot by some of the Orcans and some of the people. Paul was there and they were great. I just want to note for the ones who were there or thinking, just wondering about Lot, it's clearly by far the largest and most intricate wastewater plant we have in our region. So that's a good one to tour. They're all going to be a step down from that for sure. And the last thing I want to note is that Rob Weiland, again, he did a visit with Oli Map out to the jungle. We've had a couple more complaints and I know there's stuff happening in that. But we continue to be part of that and then try to do what we can from our end on that. Quick update, that's what I have. I'm here to answer questions if you have any from the compliance pack or anything else.
I'll just note that you might have noticed in the compliance packet, we did add some bookmarks in there because I know it's a fairly lengthy document with lots of components to it. And so hopefully those bookmarks will make it a little easier to navigate through the different parts of that report.
Liked it. Great. Thank you, Mike. No questions, on to Odell.
Dan is pulling up some slides. So May, next slide, please. 2026, May. Next slide. There we go. As you can see, it was a very, very clean month across all of the counties, the regions that we monitor air quality, at least for PM 2.5. And we have mostly a complete data set. There are a few days missing from Yelm. Sometimes we have some communication issues with that cell tower out there, but for the most part, it's pretty good.
Since we've got a new board member, can you just maybe just give a very quick explanation of how to interpret this?
Sure. So each square represents the average PM 2.5 concentration. PM 2.5 is the amount of particulates, tiny particulates in the air. The 2.5 refers to the diameter of 2.5 micrometers, which is 1/1,000,000th of a meter. So very, very, very small, but those are the ones that we breathe in more, that make it into our bloodstream and further into our bodies. And so they have the most health impact of what we're breathing. And it is PM 2.5 is the primary pollutant of concern in our region of all the criteria pollutants. At some point, maybe we can have a meeting and I can go over more of like what criteria.
I just meant kind of
just for this.
There's a lot of information on that slide.
Yeah, I know, but it's like a hole. It just leads you down a rabbit hole as you say more things. So anyway, my point is I'll be happy to explain more about air quality measurements to you if needed. But at the bottom, you'll notice there's a different color scale. And so if the air quality was moderate or the orange unhealthy for sensitive groups, you would see some of those squares turn those colors if we were measuring higher concentrations. That happens pretty commonly. We see a lot of the yellows in the winter, but May is typically a very clean month. Enough rain to keep any dust down, not a lot of wood stoves and winds and storms keep the air pretty clean. So that's pretty typical. So next slide. We've also started measuring ozone. Ozone is a summertime pollutant. We measure it in 2 locations, one in Lacey at our College Street monitoring station at Mountain View Elementary. That's the orange line. And then again at Bohocus Peak, which is our NCORE site up above Nia Bay, that is a background site. But you'll see that when it comes to ozone, there's not really such a thing as pristine or background. And you'll notice that those two lines kind of follow each other. Last month, I gave an explanation as to why the ozone in urban areas will drop down at night much, much more than in remote areas. And that has to do with reactions with other pollutants and no sunlight to build up more ozone. So those steep drops at night basically indicate other pollutants in the air that will scrub the ozone at night that don't exist at Pahokee. So next slide. Oh, wait, go back one more, Dan. One thing I just want to mention here, because I don't have the color scheme. The National Ambient Air Quality Standard for ozone is an 8-hour average of 70 parts per billion. And you can see that and these are 8-hour averages. I should have written that down. And you can see that we're nowhere close to 70 parts per billion. So these are healthy levels of, or healthy, but these are good levels of ozone. This is considered good air quality. The AQI would be good for these levels of ozone. Okay, next slide. Other air monitoring news, a big thing. So May, not a lot happened for me other than I was gone for a week to Los Angeles for the Air Sensors International Conference. I was also gone out a week for my nephew's wedding. So it's really only in the office for 2 weeks. So not too much was happening. So some of the takeaways from the international conference for me was speaking with the Purple Air manufacturers and learning about new data download options that have made the data download easier. And also some new correction factors that they've made available that are recommended. So that was great. Also got to talk to South Coast Air Quality Management District, who developed the AQ spec, which is that table I've shared on evaluating all of the public air sensors that are out there available to the public. And so that was just a really good connection to make and discussing how they do their evaluations and whether or not it makes sense to expand that to other locations. Because right now, all of those evaluations are specific to Los Angeles. And those air sensors don't always perform the same in other locations with different relative humidities or temperatures. So that was a great discussion. Another thing to come out of this, and I've mentioned this before, TVOC, which stands for total volatile organic compounds, are a common pollutant that is measured with these sensors. They're not good measurements. They're not very accurate. And my feeling is they tend to create more anxiety in the people that own them than that is probably warranted by what they're measuring. I mean, if you peel an orange next to one, it's going to skyrocket. The take home here is that there are tens of thousands of VOC compounds out there and hundreds of them are considered toxic. So this is measuring total VOC, but it doesn't separate the toxic from the non-toxic. So just kind of putting that plug out there. And then there were just a lot of exciting developments on sensor network data, harmonization, and there's so many sensors available that it's really great to see groups working on how to synthesize all that data together so that we can create and expand our air monitoring networks. All right, so we did have an ecology audit at our Mountain View Elementary air monitoring site, the James P. Werner site. They did audit ozone and BAM, both passed. That was great. And starting to get caught up on some back burner tasks, including some data validation that has gotten behind. The Grace Harbor Saturation Study Report, I finished the first draft of that yesterday, so now I'm just going to be editing and adding in a few things, but that is done. And then we have a few more SenseWAs that we're going to be installing in Grace Harbor and Mason County, but we're still working out the exact locations for those. So next slide, Dan. So I just want to go back to this air quality conference I attended to. That was a quarter of my month last month. I assisted with a wrap-up session, which I thought was kind of interesting, and I just wanted to share some of the questions we asked the attendants. So the first one is, what stakeholder category represents your primary function? And as you can see, the most people attending that conference for which we got responses were research, and regulators were down there kind of in the middle, with the manufacturers kind of coming in last. So it was a lot of people doing research, and then we had some communications, project support, data management, regulators, and what? I can't even read that one. Founding. Oh, funding? What is that?
Nonprofits.
Oh,
yes.
nonprofits, okay. And then the other one was, what was your reason for attending this conference? And so share research communications was by far most of it. Finding new technology, creating action and policy, implementation best practices for using these sensors. So there was a lot of ground covered. It was great. Next slide. So these last two slides I thought were really interesting, and we asked these questions as there were two. The first one is, what do you think are currently the US's greatest air quality challenges? And the two big ones were political will and action and environmental injustice, climate, and then funding kind of there in the middle. And then the other ones came down after that. Education, data management, equipment access, technology, indoor air quality, including indoor wood burning. So the next question, next slide, was what do you think are currently the world, not the US's air quality challenges? And you'll see that completely kind of flips around a little bit, where political will, which was the top for the US, is now kind of down in the middle. And the top one is equipment access, technology improvements, education, communication, and information. And that really reflects that a lot of air quality problems are a big deal in Africa and India and some other countries where the access to technology is not as good as here.
What percentage of conference participants were from outside the US? Roughly, I mean, was it?
I don't know, but I do know that there were several speakers that were unable to get visas or get access or were denied entry to the US. And so some of the presentations were canceled because of that. There was one where they were able to zoom in and give their presentation remotely from Africa, which was really interesting. But I don't know. And I did meet two men visiting from, I want to say it was somewhere in the Middle East, but I can't remember which country. But and they were really excited. It was their first trip to the US. And so it was really fun to talk to them and learn about what they were doing in their communities for air sensors and air quality. So that was just kind of my wrap up of what we did at this conference. So if you have any other questions, let me know.
Thanks so much, Del. Sounds like a good month, right? Little celebration with the family and a conference. It sounds pretty exciting. Okay, Dan, you want to give us an update on communications?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, a lot of outreach around the budget to start this month. Then we rolled into Smoke Ready Week, the first week of June. I've had social media posts every day for a week talking about preparing for wildfire smoke events. And the consensus is that among air quality and fire agencies and meteorologists, the National Weather Service and DNR and others, that we're on the cusp of a potential bad fire year. We've got a lot of small fuels. We've got a lot of grass and vegetation, a very low snowpack, and an El Nino developing that's looking pretty strong. So the National Weather Service forecasts June, July, August, September all to be above normal temperatures and below normal precipitation. Starting, I think this weekend, we're going to see a nice heat bump on Sunday, Monday into the 90s down here. So we're preparing for smoke as best we can. I've met this month or in end of May with the Thurston Fire Chiefs Association, participated in a Thurston Summer Hazards workshop seminar. So we are all on the same page. I've had some good conversations with the fire marshal at Mason County and some chiefs up in Jefferson and Clallam County. So we are making sure we're all prepared to support the fire agencies if there's local fires, and support the health departments around the jurisdiction if there's smoke events here. So that's what we're looking at moving forward. Did have some good local outreaches. Just last Friday evening, I was able to participate in a West Olympia neighborhood fair school carnival type event at a local elementary school. They invited us late, actually heard about us through our work with OliMap, and so she thought it'd be good for us to come. So had a very interesting Friday night hanging out with about 400 elementary kids, ages 5 to 10. So that was a unique experience for the childless Dan Nelson. But I've got a lot of nieces and nephews, so I was able to address. Had one, this is a side note, one fascinating, I think he was 7, kid who spent 45 minutes explaining the chemical reactions in fire. So he reminded me of Sheldon Cooper from The Big Bang Theory, of just incredibly detailed knowledge about the mechanics and physics of fire. So interesting stuff that's being learned in our communities. Um, our wood stove program is still going strong. We're I've allocated about 50% of our available funds for recycling and replacements. We haven't paid that all out yet, but we've got a lot of approvals outstanding that people are really rolling that in. And we've started a radio campaign in Clallam and Jefferson counties, letting people know about that, as well as some of our asbestos requirements. And we'll be expanding the media outreach to our other counties, especially Grace Harbor, Civic, and Mason, to make sure we get into those areas outside of Thurston, which has been a part of this program for so long. So it's well known in Thurston County, but we want more participation out around the farther reaches of our jurisdiction. So I'll be working on that through the summer. And then just a heads up that we are doing some publication redesigns, updating our brochures and some of our handouts and flyers, just to give them a more modern, cleaner look and feel, and make sure they all have the same look and feel and cohesion between our publications. And I think I'll leave it there. Again, please use the news you can use at the top of my report. Focused on smoke season again, just because I'm fearful we're going to have a pretty substantial smoke episodes this year.
Dan?
Yeah, go ahead, JR.
I got a question. You said when the events happen and stuff that you're ready to help, whatever. What does that help entail?
So we're basically obviously there's not a lot we can do about smoke once it's here. So I see us as an information clearinghouse. So we have a pretty good network through our social media channels. We have a strong email newsletter program with lots of subscribers. So when there are events, we can help get the word out. So for instance, when fire departments call fire safety burn bans, we can reach out to 16,000 email subscribers and let them know that that's happening, and get it out on our social media channels. If there's smoke events, we can get the messaging from the county health departments and share that through our channels and make sure our people are hearing the messages that your departments are wanting to put out.
Okay, thank you.
I had one other follow-up, Dan. You just mentioned the number again of how many subscribers you have in the email at almost 16,000. Can you just kind of give us a little context around that? How did you get it? And also, what do you get numbers on how many are opened each time, like the open rate?
Yeah, so we have built that up in the last 5 or 6 years. We've gone from, I think in 2019 we were at around 7,000 subscribers. So in 7 years, we've added almost 10,000 or 9,000 subscribers. Some of that's organic, people see us at shows. They sign up. We let people know about it. Some of it is we push the link out to people that use our burn permit program and others through our Nextdoor feeds and other social media. So. And then we've shared it with schools, so they've shared it then with their PTAs and other agencies. So over the years, it's just slowly built up. We see right now, I get reports from MailChimp that we're getting 25 or so added per week.
That's great.
And our click-through rate is in the mid 30s. So people are getting the email and about 30% of them are actually then clicking and going into the website and looking at it there too. So it's not just landing in their mailbox and reading the headlines there. They're actually clicking through and getting more information from our website.
Oh, that's great. Thanks for that additional context. And I guess I assumed it was just, you know, as a board member, we got two more people on the mailing list. So it's great to see so successful.
I will put together a analytics report for you for the next meeting, maybe.
I'd appreciate that. Okay, great. Well, thank you. If there's no further questions for Dan, we'll turn it over to Tyson. He's in a non-disclosed location. How's it going on the financial services side?
Not a lot to report on. Yeah, I realize I am kind of in the shadows here. I apologize. My lights are on. We'll get that figured out. Yeah, so not a lot to report on. So June is our last month of the fiscal year. I'll be providing the board a year-end summary during our October board meeting. Kind of wrapping up where we stand at the end of this fiscal year. I'm going to start working on our annual report to the auditors as soon as June wraps up. We also have some movement in our rental space. So we we have two vacating tenants, which will be replaced by two new tenants. And once that exchange happens, we'll have just one space vacant. So that puts us at a one additional tenant. So it's good. That's all I have.
Great, Tyson. We'll let you off easy. I mean, you've been working on the budget, so you were kind of forefront in this meeting. So appreciate it. Any questions for Tyson before we move on?
You know, this is Paul Barron. I had a question related to the budget that I just wanted to understand. So we have this contingency fund that is kind of our fallback for if there is deficit spending. Do we put a portion of our revenue each year into that fund, or is that a fund that is just at a certain level?
Right.
Do you understand the question I'm asking?
Yep. So we actually, so our total monies is broken up in different ways. So if you look at our total monies, including all of our reserve funds plus the general fund, we're sitting at roughly $4.6 million. And when you take that chunk of money, we do allocate some of that to the general fund, and then we allocate some of it to our reserve funds. And the reserve funds, we do have what we call a contingency fund, which is approximately 20% of our operating budget for the year. So when we talk about deficit spending, we are pulling from the general fund. The reserve fund would be for a catastrophic event, in which it was something very unexpected, in which we would need to pull from that reserve fund that's based on 20% of our operating budget.
Great. Thank you. I'm a bit of a budget nerd, and so I appreciate that understanding how that works.
So if you look at page 19 of the budget package, that has that's the breakdown of the various fund budgets that Tyson talked about, the reserve funds as well as the general unnamed funds.
Yeah, so there's a little bit of semantics going on, but yeah, when deficit spending, we're pulling from the general fund when you look at it from the operating budget. So
great, good question, Paul. And all of us in this role, if we don't enter as budget nerds, we leave as budget nerds, just so much exposure. So appreciate the follow-up question.
I'd just like to clarify. I think the question had more to do with how does that reserve fund or contingency fund, whatever, grow?
How does that reserve
He
fund
was
grow?
asking if we put into the fund. Sorry, I was
So
looking for that.
yeah, so the reserve fund, the way that it's calculated, it's based on 20% of the budgeted operating costs. And that is actually something that I want to address during our next for FY 28. Maybe looking at different ways of calculating that number. And so that number is revised on a yearly basis because it's based on 20% of our operating budget. And I believe we also have set aside funds for leave. So looking at the interplay between this reserve fund plus the earmark funds for leave, is something I would like to discuss with the finance committee in fiscal year 27.
I guess.
All right.
Maybe
Go ahead,
just.
JR.
Oh no, just I'm still thinking of the previous question that the other gentleman had was his original question is money going into this every year, budgeted into your not necessarily reserve or contingency, whatever you pull from, that $4.6 million, and then you budget from that. But where did that $4.6 million come from in the beginning? And I ask, I should know this, but I'm just asking because the question was.
The $4.6 million is our general fund plus all of our reserve funds. So it's our total amount of monies that we have. And then from that $4.6 million, we earmark portions of it which go into reserve funds.
I guess
He wants to know where the money came from. It's our surplus.
Thank
Yes,
you.
So the money came, so Greg referred to a large penalties amount that we received. So I think fiscal year 2024, we received almost $2 million from a settlement from one of our sources. And so, that's just essentially it's the amount in our bank account that's been there over the years. It's actually, we talked with the finance committee, I think in May or maybe it was April, where we showed kind of what that fund balance has been over the years. Essentially that's the money that's in our bank account that the board can decide on what we should fund, what work we should do. And again, given the uncertainties with our budget and increasing expenses and other things, it's what we draw on when our revenues don't match our expenditures.
Yeah, and the $4.6 million comes from the operations of ORCAA. So it comes from all of our revenue sources. And one of the revenue sources, which is very variable, is our penalty revenue, which can sometimes result in these large one-time $1 million penalties, which are very rare, but they have happened.
All right.
Does that answer your question?
Looks like it.
Hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, sir, it did.
Okay.
Great. Well, appreciate the questions, and careful, JR and Paul. You keep asking these questions. We're gonna nominate you for the finance committee, so careful what you ask for.
No taken.
Didn't mean it as a threat, as an invitation, really. Okay. Great. So I don't think we have a need for an executive session, but we'll go to the good of the order. Anything that folks want to amplify or see on the agenda in the future? I don't like to, call it before we're there, but I think we might get out early today. So don't get used to it, JR. Usually we're right up against the noon hour. But so just a reminder, that link at the bottom of your agenda that says our next meeting is July 8th is also how you get into the agenda planner, and you can see the layout for the rest of the year. I got confused, even though I look at it every month. When I was talking to Jeff earlier this week, you'll see the old meetings there first. You have to go down to the dates are correct. So come down into the 2026. It's a kind of a rolling spreadsheet, but really helpful for planning the cadence of these meetings. And thanks all for the work on the budget and the good questions. And I'll pause one more time to see if anyone else has anything they want to contribute. Okay, great. Well, I will adjourn this June 10th meeting of the Board of County Commissioners. I'm sorry, mini county commissioners and city councilors on the ORCAA board. And that gaffe aside, good meeting, and we'll see everyone on July 8th. Have a great week.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a great
everybody.
week.